My name's Charles Bronson, and all my life I've wanted to be famous.
It might take a lot more than just being a petty criminal to have Tom Hardy play you in a movie while you're still alive. Yes, today's most feared inmate has a documentary made about him. Truth be told, it's a pretty good watch. Let us delve deep into the life of Michael Gordon Peterson. But wait, you might not know him by that name. This man has had a few name changes throughout his life, but let's just stick to his most famous name. You might have heard of Charles Bronson. Yes, the Charles Bronson. The man who was so fond of breaking windows and walls, they had to get him his own steel cage. Before we get to his outrageous displays of rage and anger, let us take you to his childhood. If you've seen the hit Netflix show Dahmer, you would know that a criminal attitude can be seen in people from as young as 4 years of age. So was Bronson displaying all these attributes as a child? Not really. You'd be amazed to know that he had a surprisingly normal childhood and a loving, caring family. That would make one think, what went wrong? Let's uncover that mystery together throughout the course of this video. Michael Gordon Peterson was born on the 6th of December, 1952. He was from a rather respectable family. His father, Joe Peterson, ran a gentleman's club in Aberystwyth, a university town some distance away from his birthplace of Luton, Bedfordshire. His aunts and uncles were mayors of the area in the 1960s and 1970s. As a child, Bronson showed no signs of misconduct or irrational behavior. He had never struggled with anger or needed psychiatric help. Eileen Perry, former mayor of Luton, and his aunt stated that, as a boy, he was a lovely lad. He was obviously bright and always got along well with other children. He was gentle and mild-mannered. Never a bully, he would defend the weak. So how did this lovely lad hop between so many psychiatric hospitals, prisons, and correctional facilities? Now that is something that began to brew on its own in Bronson. As a child, he was never exposed to anything of the sort, but soon he showed some attributes of a petty crime. As a teenager, Bronson began associating with the wrong kind of company. At just 13 years of age, he became a part of a local gang that would engage in tomfoolery and petty theft. He hated school, so he often skipped it. He returned to Luton after a significant fight near his high school. His family wanted him to take charge of his life and act responsibly. He even got a job at a Tesco. But within 2 weeks, he had quit. Unstable as he was, he could not hide it very long from people around him. You would be amazed to hear about his first imprisonment. Bronson met his girlfriend during this time. They fell in love instantly. It was during one of their fights that her father intervened. He got into an argument with his girlfriend's father over something trivial. Bronson stormed out of the store they were standing in. Guess what happened next? He smashed the windows of random cars parked outside. Must be a shocking thing to see for all the onlookers that day. He was given a heavy fine and put on probation for his actions. But little did the jury know that this young boy was going to become a symbol of fear among many prisons all across England. His string of petty crimes continued throughout his teenage years, but he completely outdid himself in his late teens. He crashed a car, not with his own car, but with a mega-sized lorry that he had stolen that day. Things went on like that for some time, with Bronson hopping in and out of jail for a few days here and there. In 1971, love bloomed once again, and he found himself in love with Irene Kelsey, his future wife and the mother of his first child. It was his tailored suits, his thick Cockney accent, and his groomed sideburns that had taken her. She was smitten by him, and the two could not stay apart for long. He had a son with Irene in 1972, but times changed and the love fizzled out. What was left was a loveless marriage, an angry husband, and a fed-up wife. He and Irene divorced 5 years later. At the tender age of 22, Bronson was convicted of armed robbery and given a 7-year jail sentence. This is where he truly began to show what he was capable of. He would often get enraged by small things and attack his fellow prisoners. He would be sent to the punishment block where he would scream and shout. Due to his behavior, He was sent to another facility called Hull, and there too he refused to help out in the prison and would get into fistfights with the prison guards. This is where things started to take an ugly turn. He was so uncontrollable that they began injecting him with sedatives, and his sentence was increased by 6 months on account of bad behavior. They even put him in solitary confinement, but that only made him angrier. He came out, assaulted an inmate with a glass jar, and was charged with grievous bodily harm. He served 9 extra months for that violent action. His series of transfers from prison to prison continued when he was shifted to Armorley Jail. In the next 2 years, from 1975 to 1977, he was moved over and over again. It was Wakefield at first, then Parkhurst and Walton later on. He was so dangerous that he was transferred from Yorkshire to London while he was chained to the floor of a prison van. Bronson derived his energies to better things for the first time in years, and began building a healthy exercise routine. He lifted weights and became the fittest, but only physically. For his anger issues, he was still kept in solitary confinement, and the guards and officers had limited interactions with him. During his time at Parkhurst, he became a dear friend of Ronald and Reginald Cray, the Cray twins, famous for their organized crime and murder. Once, he even tried to dig his way out of Wandsworth Prison, but a fellow prisoner snitched on him. He was stopped, but he caught hold of that prisoner. He made sure the man's face showed signs of his anger. In 1978, he was sent to Broadmoor, one of the highest security psychiatric hospitals in the area. They could not deal with him there, so Rampton Psychiatric Hospital it was. He had some sense of morals because it was at Rampton that he attempted to assault an inmate known for preying on children, John White. He was moved again, and it was then that he attempted to harm himself with a silk tie. The silk tie tore, and Bronson could not end his life. He descended into depression. He staged many rooftop protests during his time at Broadmoor, which resulted in £250,000 of damage, followed by another incident resulting in damages of £100,000. He wanted to be moved from Broadmoor, so he went on an 18-day hunger strike. It worked, and he was shifted to Ashworth Psychiatric Hospital. Things didn't calm down there. He had another 3 years of prison time added to his sentence because he attacked Mervyn Hawley with a sauce bottle. What had Hawley done? He had made sexual advances towards Bronson. We guess Bronson was straight as a pencil. He hopped from Risley Remand Center to Walton to Albany, and then to Wormwood Scrubs. In 1986 alone, he was transferred 8 times, once for strangling a governor. He was free for some time, but his string of crimes continued. From keeping a civilian librarian hostage, to holding Adrian Wallace the governor in his room, to taking up a doctor hostage in 1996. Bronson went as rogue as could be. He even took 2 Iraqi hijackers as his hostages and asked them to tickle his feet and call him General. He was placed in a special Hannibal cell made just for him. He softened again when he married Bangladeshi Muslim Fatima Rehman, who began contacting him through letters. He accepted Islam and became Charles Ali Ahmed, but that was short-lived. He divorced Fatima and also apparently his newfound faith. In 2014, he became Charles Salvador, a new start in his life, a new beginning. His latest love was actress Paula Williamson, whom he married a few years later, but she was found dead in her home. And now he remains incarcerated in the HM prison Woodhill. This was the life of Charles Bronson, a man of many names and personalities. Let us know what you think of him in the comments below, and subscribe for more weekly content ahead.